Hello everyone, welcome to this new live stream. The first live stream in something like 2 months, if I'm correct in my computations. And it's once again to talk about an AI code generation tool. So I'm not planning to do all my live streams about this topic, but it just so happens that this one, the past ones, were about such tools. And this time we're talking about a tool that I've already had the chance to talk about 2 years ago. So it's Copilot, the tool from GitHub, which is like extremely well known. It might be maybe outside of ChatGPT, the most known developer tool, definitely more known than Cursor. Makes sense because it's been there for quite some time now. I think maybe something like 3 years, maybe a bit more if you count the private beta. And the reason why I'm talking about it today is because up until something like 10 days ago, you could use Copilot in VS Code, but you had to switch back to Xcode to build your project or use a SwiftUI preview or anything that requires building or running your Swift code with the iOS SDK, the Mac SDK, any of the proprietary SDKs. There existed an extension for Xcode for Copilot that was made by someone that was not part of Microsoft or GitHub, but 10 days ago, GitHub has finally released their own extension for Copilot to integrate it into Xcode. So kind of funny to see this being released a few months after predictive code completion in Xcode and before Swift Assist, because if you're watching the replay, as of when I'm doing this live stream, so November the 11th, 2024, Swift Assist still hasn't been released yet. So they're kind of like releasing just before the official feature from Apple. Now, yeah, you were waiting for that. I was waiting for that, I'm not gonna lie, because as much as I was excited when I tried Copilot within VS Code, the fact that you had to do a back and forth between VS Code and Xcode, I'm not gonna lie, except for the videos, I never used it in real life just because of that. But now it's integrated into Xcode, so we'll see how it goes. If you remember, I had covered predictive code completion in Xcode a few months before, I think early in July or end of June when it released. I was quite disappointed. Let's use the real word. I was quite disappointed by predictive code completion. I did a talk at the iOS Paris conference a few weeks ago where I compared it to Copilot. Copilot was giving better results, so now we can use Copilot in Xcode. Let's go ahead and try it. So I've put in the description the link to install this extension for Xcode. I won't go through the steps because you can just follow what is indicated in the README of the GitHub project. It's very clear. Just note one thing. Right now, I'm using my Mac that is running Sequoia, so the latest macOS, and I had no problem making the extension work. However, I have another Mac which runs on Sonoma, so the previous version, and I couldn't log in the extension. Like I could open the GitHub page, log in, put the OTP, the one-time password that the extension gives you. It would say login successful, but the extension would never refresh and say, hey, you're logged in. So if you're on Sonoma and it doesn't work, maybe it's a problem that is common to more than me. So if that's the case, well, try to update to Sequoia, because at least on Sequoia, I can do that it's working. Yeah, I agree that it's just not there compared to Copilot. It just has the advantage of running privately on your machine, which I've been told in some companies, Copilot is a no-no because you need to send your code to a backend. Even though I'm sure that by now, Copilot, they must be doing some B2B deals where they can guarantee some level of confidentiality. I mean, their product is mature enough that I wouldn't be surprised they were to do that. And also, I read someone saying, hey, I'm going to do a 9-hour plane trip. I'm going to try this Copilot for Xcode. Well, you need to have the internet for it to work. So that's also one of the situations where predictive code completion is still slightly better. By the way, I'm just going to show it to you because it can be, I mean, they tell you to do it, but if you're going to use the Xcode extension for Copilot, make sure you uncheck predictive code completion. Otherwise, the two of them are going to start to like go over each other. I haven't tried to see what it does. I'm sure it must be pretty funny, but you probably want to just like uncheck it because as I've been able to see when comparing Copilot to what we have in Xcode for now, Copilot gives equal or better results like in the vast majority of the time. So let's go ahead. I have put a list of what I want to show you, what I want to try, but don't forget it's a live stream. So if you're watching live, please let me know in the chat if you want me to try a few things. I would love to have your opinion. I'm gonna try writing some basic code, or writing documentation for a code, or writing code from documentation, or writing tests for a piece of code. We're going to give it a try. I think I'm going to spend something like an hour, because I don't think there is that much value going above 1 hour for this kind of topic. Then if you find it interesting, you're better off just giving it a try yourself with your own project. So let's go ahead and you will see that it works so fast. It works so fast and it has to go through the internet. So that tells you how slow predictive code completion, the built-in one, can be in Xcode. So you can see that it's suggesting, and it's a multi-line suggestion. So if I press option, I can see the rest. So it's suggesting adding a button, tap me, which is going to print button tapped. And you can see from this little icon, we can be sure that it's indeed Copilot, because this is the Copilot icon. So I'm going to, so if I just do tab, it accepts, you see, if I just do tab, it accepts the one line, the single line. Let me put my cursor back. So it accepts a single line, and then if I do option and then tab, then it accepts the whole chunk of code that was suggested. So it's kind of intuitive, and to me, like for this kind of extension, that's what you need to nail, because it needs to feel reactive, snappy. If it feels something that's like slowing you down, you will not use it, because it's just going to feel like counterproductive. But I tried it a few times before the live stream just to make sure that it was working, you know, and yeah, I was quite impressed. And yeah, I can see you saying in the chat that it's fast. Yeah, I agree. It's quite fast. I was quite impressed. So let's try a few things. One thing I want to try first. So we're going to start easy. You know, I'm going to create a new empty file. I'm going to call it code, and I'm just going to say, for instance, let's write func filter out even numbers. So you can see it starts to suggest first only the first line, which is the signature of the function, but then it can also suggest the full body. So interestingly, you can see that it doesn't suggest using the is multiple of method. It's one thing I've noticed that is common to both predictive code completion and Copilot, is the fact that both systems, how should I put it? Well, they've been trained on existing pieces of code, and so maybe there isn't as much existing code that uses the newer APIs than code that uses the older syntaxes. So that's why here it uses the modulo operator, even though you could do something like $is multiple of. And let's try actually to see. So here it says if $0, so the argument modulo q is different than 0. If I do is multiple of, so here it's suggesting, but here you can see it's the thing from Xcode that's happening. It's not Copilot, I think. Wait, no. When I say, I mean, it's not predictive code completion, but it's, since I'm doing the regular code completion, I'm not sure whether it's Copilot. No, actually, this seems to be Copilot, because here I'm no longer doing auto completion. So here it says is multiple of q. Actually, we want to filter out, so it's not that, it should be equal false. So here it seems that, interestingly, when I do is multiple of, it didn't generate a correct code. You know what? I'm going to leave it like that, because I'm going to ask it to write a test for it just after. I see a question, how to add Copilot. I've put in the description, so just below, the link to the GitHub of the extension, and from there you have all of the instructions on that page. So I will let you have a look at that. I think it will be more interesting than if I had tried to just install it live. I don't think there is that much value in me doing it live. So let's try to write a test for this function, which I think has a bug, and let's see if the test catches it. So here I'm using, oh, it's using XCTest. No, I want to use Swift testing. I want to try and see if it can write something for the more modern framework. So it suggests writing a test filter out even numbers, and you can see that it's completely hallucinating because it says so test, which is the old convention, and then it does testing dot, which doesn't exist. It's the macro expect that you're supposed to use, if I remember that one correctly. I always have a doubt if it's assert or expect. I think it's expect that you need to use. So let's try and just write it correctly. So func test filter out even numbers. So here it's doing an assert, but it's assert, it's the function. I mean, it does exist, but it's a function that you're supposed to use in your production code, not in a test. So actually, here, so it should be rather found expect, and then it gets it correctly. So you can see that for the most recent frameworks like Swift testing, it's not that great. You could expect it because Copilot is trained from existing code, and by definition, there isn't that much existing code that runs that uses the new Swift testing framework. But when I started to point it towards using the macro expect, then it gave something that seemed like a correct result. Let me hide the simulator. What do we have in the chat while it's building and installing? So I take your question, you talking about Copilot and AI. What is your point of view about AI at this speed of innovation? Do you think AI will replace software developers? I wouldn't say replace, but I would say like make it faster. I would honestly. I think one thing Apple did great when they call it predictive code completion is that they put it into the same realm than auto completion, and that's kind of like the same way that I see it. I see AI as something as like auto completion on steroids. That's basically the way I see it, and that makes me think maybe I should do a video with that topic because maybe it's a take that I should like elaborate on a bit. It managed to find the issues in the code. So I will go back to this just after. I just want to answer this question to finish answering it. I think AI makes you faster. AI makes it easier for you to try going into one direction, and then if it doesn't work out, you haven't spent too much time and energy on it. So that's the way I see it. To be honest, I don't think that AI will replace developers for now, but it will just change what the job looks like. The same way that someone that was building in assembly in the 70s and 80s, compare that to building an app using SwiftUI, the two jobs feel so different when you think about what one person can accomplish in the same amount of time. So that's kind of the way I see it. Also, another way I would see it is kind of like the metaphor that Steve Jobs had for the computer, which is a bicycle for your mind. That's kind of like how I see AI, like a bicycle for your mind. You can ask it to do things that are boring but easy to do. I would say, yeah, that's the way I see it. I can give you an example. Like at work, I've needed to do some things outside of iOS that involve using either Python or TypeScript. And by using ChatGPT, and now I'm using Claude more and more, I'm able to do these things quite easily and quite quickly. Whereas before, it would have taken me more time and energy. So basically, it's a way to like make the most out of my skills, because today we could say like my value is not necessarily in writing some basic level Python or TypeScript code, but more in being able to know which code should be written to get this result quickly, because we need it quickly. And then I use the AI as a way to get to that result quickly. But my job is to understand, okay, this is the result we need to get. We need to get it quickly. How can we get it? And then find the right tool. So it's kind of like what I had to say, like top of mind, but maybe I will make another video on the topic. Another comment, maybe as people use the extension, it will be better at writing Swift code. Maybe, even though, from what I understand, Copilot is trained using GitHub. So I think like there is already a lot of Swift code on GitHub, and I don't think that you won't choose to put your code on GitHub because you use Copilot as an extension. The two do not correlate a lot. So maybe it will be able to gather statistics. By the way, I haven't checked like what's their policy on that. So maybe it will be better. Maybe it will understand better indeed. Where you have a point is that it will be able to understand which kind of suggestions do people accept or not, what I don't know if it can understand also when you change a result to modify it, if it can understand this and take this as a way to just like update its dataset. But you're right that first I said like it won't necessarily help in having more Swift code available to Copilot for training, but what you're perfectly right is that it will help having more Swift developers use Copilot, and so maybe there are signals that Copilot can listen to, and that Swift developers will now be much more likely to provide it. So that's a very good point. I mentioned Swift Assist. Is it like a Copilot for Xcode? Yeah, it's similar to that. Actually, it's more similar to Cursor because it asks you to write a prompt for what you would want it to do. But it's a feature that Apple announced at WWDC for Xcode 16, but it's not released yet. They say that it will be released like during I think they said before the end of the year, I think. So we are getting like they have 1.5 months. Yeah, basically, because I don't think they will release it between Christmas and New Year's Eve. So they have 1.5 months to release it. I think I will do a live stream when they release it, but yeah, it's another AI feature coming to Xcode later this year, and you can see a demo of it in the State of the Union WWDC video from this year. Someone saying, I just started looking for a new job and I'm wondering how having Copilot installed will lower or raise my chances. What do interviewers think about this? I'm a huge ChatGPT user currently. I would say it's of course going to depend like of the person you have in front of you. My point of view is if an AI tool helps you get the correct result faster, then it's fair game. Unless there is a very good reason not to use it, like some super strong confidentiality reason, for instance, but otherwise, it's fair game. The only thing is that when you use these tools, make sure that you are able to understand and validate what they generate. Like, don't take what they generate for granted, because if you put some super complex code and you don't have the singlest clue what that code is doing, basically, if you're not able to answer any question about that code, then that becomes a problem. So I would say, as long as you're using the tool as a recall box, basically, as a way to get quickly to a result that you could have gotten to with more time, I think it's perfectly fine. But when you use it to discover something new, especially if it's while applying for a job, that can be a good strategy, but make sure that once it generates something, you understand what it's generating, because otherwise it's kind of like assembling like Lego bricks, but without understanding how the bricks work, and then at some point you're going to like produce some code that makes no sense, or that is like crazily unoptimized, or this kind of thing, and then people will notice it, and that's when I think it can give a bad image, because not because it's using AI, but because it's a use of AI that was I'm looking for the correct word, like not like correctly like thought of, like AI can hallucinate. It's a known fact, it's a known limitation, so you should plan for that. And one way of planning for that is to either be able to yourself validate that the result is correct because you already have the knowledge, or research a bit what the AI has given you to make sure that it actually does make sense. Another comment says, would it understand last WWDC updates? Well, for instance, we saw that for pound expect in Swift testing, it wasn't that great. When I started pointing it in the right direction, it was able to like still make sense of it. I think that's because these AI models have a lot of flexibility once you point them into the right direction. But by itself, it wasn't, and it actually completely hallucinated a testing.assert something function that doesn't exist at all, but still fits with an old singleton pattern. So you can understand how it could have hallucinated, being like, okay, I don't understand how this testing framework works, and so it kind of like goes back to maybe the most common type of code it saw, and maybe this most common type of code for Swift was old code that uses singleton. Just an hypothesis, but I think it might explain, maybe not totally, but partially, why we had these results. Lots of messages in the chat, so that's really great. This was a message says, but we see more and more like you write English instructions and it will generate for you all the code and it keeps getting better and better. Yes, but it's not magical by no means. I can give you an example. like the other day at work, not related to iOS, but I was writing a Google App script, which is some kind of JavaScript that you can run in Google Drive, basically to process some files. And I needed to have a way to resize images before sending them to an API. If you follow what I do, you might guess which API it is. And so I asked both ChatGPT and Claude to write code for that, and they completely hallucinated libraries in this Google Apps Script language to handle images, to resize images. None of these libraries existed. So yes, it's getting better and better, but the examples that you see very often, I think there is a lot of cherry picking, and I don't think that you can let an AI be fully autonomous without human supervision for now. Of course, it might evolve in the future. It might be that hallucinations, they are like the one flaw that never lets us have this type of AI models be fully autonomous. It could be that it's not the case and someone finds a way to do it. What I saw recently from OpenAI, from what I understand, with their like idea of like lines of reasoning, is that they run kind of like several times the LLM, kind of like to make it go closer to a final like thought. I'm saying it with my words, and I'm sure that I've missed lots of context, and I'm only half correct. But I've seen like people trying to find a way to push past that limitation, but maybe there will be a way to do it. Maybe it will come later for another technology. Honestly, it's anyone's guess. I don't think I'm the most like qualified person to answer that. Definitely not. I can just give you my perspective as a software engineer who has now like 10 years experience. Maybe even a bit more if you count when I was doing internships. Like I would say it's a great tool to go faster, but I don't think that it can replace the job that I do today. It's just a way to automate the most like boring parts of the job, and basically that's what like machines have always been doing. Can GitHub Copilot leak my secrets, keys, and private code? I'm not sure. Honestly, you will need to read a bit more about it. I don't want to give an answer because it's an important topic, and I haven't read all of the fine prints. So I will let you read that. What's being sure is that Copilot is making network calls. So at least like your source code is leaving. Part of your source code is leaving your machine. That's the part that I'm sure about. Just so your video about the guy who said Apple is killing Swift. Really like it overall. As you are an expert iOS developer, happy with the current Swift language. So thank you for liking this video. There was fairly good feedbacks. A few feedbacks about the fact I was kind of like repeating myself towards the end, which totally fair because I was doing it without a script. But I would say I like Swift in the sense that it does support what Apple wants to do and manages to do it quite well. I think Swift UI is starting to be really good and has been really good for at least a couple of years now, maybe even 3 years now. Macros are crazily complex, to be honest. So that's one part where I feel like they went for something like super powerful but also super complex. Maybe I would have liked it if they had put something a bit in the middle. Granted, that thing in the middle already exists. You have the property wrappers, you have the result builders, which in a way are like macros with very specific scopes. But I mean, I'm not unhappy with Swift. I'm just, to be honest, I'm curious to see where it's going to go into the next like few years, because now that we have the macros, you can do a lot of things without making the language like evolve. So the only thing that I can be a bit concerned about is that I'm not sure that a yearly cycle for a programming language makes as much sense as it does for an OS. And even for OSs, people have been like complaining about it a bit. I understand that because they are releasing like new hardware, they want to align the two. That kind of makes sense. But you know, like we're starting to see the limit of releasing a new iPhone every year, and I think that for programming languages, like one release every year is probably a bit too much, and I hope they won't like try to put features just to do this new release because that might be maybe a bit of a trap that they could like. It's kind of like they could paint themselves into a corner by doing that. But at the same time, people who work on Swift, when you see them at WWDC, there are people who are like extremely knowledgeable about like programming languages, much more than I am. So I trust them that they know what they're doing, but what they do will always serve like what is the corporate interest of Apple. So basically, like Swift is tied to that corporate interest. So for better and worse, and we'll see where it leaves us. And one last message. Sorry, it was a lot of messages, but I wanted to read all of them because thank you for participating. AI rocks at basic and general code, but when it comes to libraries and API, it's behaving weirdly and often hallucinate. I agree. Like when we tried Cursor 2 months ago, I asked it to write code to use the matching geometry effects, to animate one object from one view to another. And I wanted to do it across a navigation transition, and I don't think it's possible, but it still wrote the code and it wasn't working, and I tried to ask it to fix it, and it was doing fixes that were not fixing the problem. So indeed, I agree with you. On that, and you're saying the browser company has made their browser Arc using Swift on Windows, so maybe in the future we will see more and more Swift for other purposes than Apple apps. And it's true that Apple said that they will release a version of Foundation that will be open source. And I think the plan is that moving forward, iOS will also be using this open source version of Foundation, because right now, iOS uses a slightly different version of Foundation than Swift on server, for instance, which can lead to some small differences. At least it used to in the past. Like I remember a company that was doing technical test tools for at my previous job. I was asked to evaluate them, and I had the problem that a code that was solving the problem correctly on my machine when building with Xcode and the foundation of iOS was not solving the problem correctly when being built on the server with the open source foundation. So when they will be able to align foundation so that everyone uses the same one, whether you're on the open source version or the proprietary SDKs, I think it will be a big step forward. But I speak, and I forget the topic of the live stream, which is about GitHub Copilot. So thank you all for all of these messages. Really makes it super nice when there is like this level of interactivity. And now let's go back to the topic. So the test at least managed to find out the fact that the function here is broken because it's doing the opposite of what it should do. So you know what? I'm gonna go back to the code and I'm gonna try and put it on several lines to see what it's gonna suggest now. So this one is correct, but if I try to force it like that, so now this time it suggested the correct one. I did tap on tab, yes. I think I've encountered an issue within Copilot. So as you can see, it seems that the extension, by the way, this extension is still in like early access or public beta, so it's not the final version, but you can see that when you use it along with autocomplete, there can be some issues. And now we have the code that should be correct. I'm gonna run the tests again, but this time the tests should be green. Or if they're not, I really suck at computer science. Let's see. Perfect. All right. Now let's try and see if it can write. So interestingly, it suggested to have like a pragma mark. Why not? But let's see. Let's imagine that I wanted to write. Yes. So it can write the documentation. So, oh, it even suggested import foundation. Why not? It's what I hadn't put it there. And so if you start doing the slash star star and then star slash, you can see that it's suggesting the first line of the documentation. We'll see if it's going to do the same for the return and for the numbers. Let's see. So parameter numbers, yes. And then returns an array of numbers without even numbers. And let's see if it's working. Yes. So sorry, it's a bit cut. I'm gonna move it a bit so that you can see it. Yes, better. So now we have the documentation. So that's kind of nice. Honestly, I'm not gonna say like you should leverage this to write this kind of comments for all of your code, because you can see it's not super helpful, especially if it's like internal code and you have access to the source code. But if you write like SDKs that are exposed to other developers, that's kind of like the purpose of an SDK, whether it's a public one or a private one. This could be useful because sometimes you end up writing comments that you need to write because it makes the developer experience better, but these comments, they feel a bit like dull to write. They are not maybe the thing that's like the most like amazing to write. Now you have a way to generate it automatically for you. That's pretty great. And we're going to try something else, and we'll try something like, say, function that squares a number. And I want to see if it can. Oh, yes. So you can also write a comment, kind of like a prompt, an inline prompt. I know that Copilot lets you like write prompts to it in VS Code. I don't think it does for now in this extension, but you can at least give some kind of a prompt like that. So that's kind of nice. You know what? Let's try it within the SwiftUI view. So for instance, here it's suggested to add a button, but instead of a button, we're going to say like, it's going to be like, it says add a new text view. We're going to say like, add a text field and a text that shows the input of the text field. So we have this, and then this, which is kind of okay. Oh, I just forgot. So here, yes, because there was no, and that's why you see the difference between a tool like Cursor and also what Swift Assist is promising to do, is that because there is no add state property, it wasn't able to leverage it. So we still need to do a bit of a change, but let's see, maybe it will suggest writing it. So nothing for now. If I do add state private var name, okay. And so here we're going to do $name, perfect suggestion. Let's see what the preview looks like. I got to say, except for the small bug we had just before, perfect, working perfectly. So except for the small bug we had when using autocomplete, otherwise it's working quite well. I'm quite impressed by what they've done. Granted, they only had to do the integration within Xcode, but the fact that it feels like snappy and responsive is really what's gonna make it a killer use case or a deal breaker. And I think that they've nailed it pretty well. So what did I want to do? I'm looking at my list. So I had put, actually I can show it to you. So that's the list of what I wanted to show you. Write documentation for code. We've seen it can do it. Write code from documentation. We'll try this one. Write code that requires looking at other files. Write async code, write mocks, write tests. We saw that it's like so-so. But let's try writing code that requires looking at other files. And there is a great way to do that. I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to remove all of this. I'm going to go here in this file. I'm going to declare a struct. I will call it address. And here you're going to see what I'm going to do. I'm going to do like not what it suggests, but I'm going to put some random variable names. And what I want to see is that if when I try to use this in the other file, if it's gonna suggest using the same garbage but completely random names, because there is no way that it could suggest that just by using statistics if it hasn't taken into account the code that is in this separate file, so code.swift. Only thing is I will give it default values because I don't want, otherwise I will need to write this in the init in the other file and it will make less sense. So here I'm gonna do, you know what? I'm gonna make them actually vars, and so I will do at state var address is equal an address. Perfect. And now let's try and display it. So it's saying, and now I'm going to say like display text field to input address. Okay. Yes. Okay. And it's very simple. If it builds, and the fact that they are colored correctly seems to suggest that it's able to look. So it's able to look at the content of this other file to make the request here. So of course, the question would be, how much does it scale to a large project? Because does it know about the other file because it's just sending all of the files and then that only works up to a certain size? Because I don't think on a very, very large project, all the files can fit within the context of Copilot. But at least here it seems to have worked quite well. And I see a comment, sorry to bother you with my questions. Not at all, not at all. The goal of live streams is also to ask questions, and usually when someone asks a question in the chat, there are other people watching the replay that also ask themselves the same question. So that's definitely a good thing. And don't worry, if I feel a question is off topic, I will not answer it, and I won't get dragged into answering something that I don't think I should spend the time to answer. And you were saying, you say SwiftUI keeps getting better and better and will become the standard soon, but for newbie aspiring iOS developers, we can skip learning UIKit, right? I would say by now, SwiftUI, unless in very specific cases, has become the standard, honestly. I think it's gotten there. The fact that there is also Compose on Android and frameworks like React on the web that are built using the same paradigm make it have so much more sense if you're developing an app for several platforms to use the same paradigms to build the UI. I would say for now, starting with, and I think I even have like a short video on my YouTube channel, one of the very few shorts that I made. I think like getting started with SwiftUI makes total sense. And then what I would recommend is maybe get a sense of how UIKit works. Don't spend like days and days learning it unless if you have a real need for it, but otherwise just learn the basics of how it works, and I think you will have enough knowledge by doing that. And I mean, maybe spend like an afternoon on it, and you will have enough knowledge so that the day where you need to look into UIKit, you will know like have a sense of directions. You will know your bearing and you will know where to look. And by the way, I did a live stream something like maybe like 6 months ago called Learning UIKit when you already know SwiftUI, and it covers the basics of UIKit over like I think around 2 hours, probably a bit less. And so I will recommend that you check it out, because I think that when I made it, I definitely wanted to, that was meant, like you were the target audience. What I'm trying to say, like you were the target audience for this live stream. So I would recommend that you check it out. And I see someone saying both. I would say, like these days there is more and more emphasis on SwiftUI for like the day-to-day job. Knowing UIKit is a plus, but if you're getting started, I would say you have a better shot being very good at SwiftUI than being average at SwiftUI and average at UIKit. For 2 reasons. First, because if you're very good at SwiftUI, you will be able to get good results in SwiftUI quickly. And also, when you are very good at one technology, usually it means that you've understood some deep topics, and then as a consequence, it will be easier for you to understand other technologies because you will be able to relate this other technology to what you already know. It's kind of like when you go really deep into a topic, you might not realize it, but you gain some like general like expertise in how to understand complex topics, and then that translates to other technologies and framework. And you're saying, I think most companies still want people to have a strong knowledge of UIKit. I would say look at the job offers where you want to apply and go from there. It might depend, it might change a lot between companies. Some companies might have a lot of legacy projects. In that case, it makes sense that they would put an emphasis on the knowledge of UIKit. But if it's a startup that was created 2 years ago and supports iOS 7 plus 17 plus and is full Swift UI, they might put much less of an emphasis on it. So I would really say in that case, take it from a business point of view rather than a technical point of view, meaning look at the market, look at what the market, your target market wants, and go from there. But don't try to assume what the market wants, because you might be surprised and not in a good way. And yeah, definitely depends on the kind of company. I don't think there is a one size fits all here. It's really like you need to know where you want to get hired and then go from there. Okay, so writing code that requires looking at other files, check. Let's try to do, I love to do this little test, is to try and ask it to make a network call. So for instance, it's going to be func fetch movie data. No, I need to do something that's going to fetch data from a URL. So maybe, I don't know, how did I do it when I tried predictive code completion? I think I was, I think I had defined a few other stuff, but I was doing fetch. What could I fetch? Like, yeah, but no, I wanted to understand that it's like asynchronous. Maybe I know what I should do. I should do like class movie service, then struct movie is gonna have let title, and then a second property, let like overview. Okay, and then func fetch movies. Okay, but just going to return it. But if I do something like, basically I want to make it write something that's async. How did I manage to do it? Because I know that I've done it before. You know what? I'm just gonna move this here. I'm gonna look at the talk I gave a couple months ago, just to remind myself how I had done it. Okay, I had done something like struct address API, and then okay. So I had used the address from above, and then I had done like struct. Okay. So you know what? We're going to keep something like this. So now we're going to write something that makes sense. So now it's learned from my craziness, but it's going to be like street. Okay, city. Let's stop there. So I'm gonna remove this code here that no longer builds. Let's go like that. All right, let's check that it still builds. Build failed. Why? Oh yeah, I can get rid of that. So that's what I want to check, because GitHub and all of the tools, they tend to favor like older APIs because there is much more code examples, and so I think it might go. At least when I tried on VS Code 2 months ago, it was aiming for a completion handler by default. So we'll see that. Struct address API to give it a very strong hint about what I'm trying to do. And so if I say func fetch address for user ID, I would like it to, it's crazy because it was working. It was going into this, so I could say fetch addresses. Maybe that would help, I don't know. It's still suggesting to return like to return like hard-coded data. Okay, you know what? Let's switch gears and we'll do a function that fetches addresses of a user ID over the network. Let's see that. It's like it doesn't want to go to async by default, which it's a difference in how it behaves compared to, you know what, maybe it's because I have these functions, I don't know, maybe it's because there is this that is not like API like, that's what makes it do something different. No. Yeah, now it says some network requests. So maybe that they kind of like, I don't know, maybe did some filtering here. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna try and give it more hints. So for instance, I'm going to be like static let endpoint, something like that, for instance. Does it take the hint? Oh, look at that. It went for async await by default. So that's a clear improvement on what I saw couple months ago. So I need to make this decodable for it to build, but so it's gotten better actually. So maybe there is a chance that, I don't know, maybe Copilot wasn't like maybe there is some kind of like optimization, fine-tuning, configuration for each like language, and maybe Swift hadn't had, I don't know, maybe the same amount of love than other languages that VS Code more often like handles, but maybe they did something to improve what it suggests when using it within Xcode. So that's great. That's great because as you can see, it's suggested async await, so it didn't suggest a completion handler, which is what I would have been really disappointed in, but also it didn't suggest using combine, which would be like correct, but maybe not what we would recommend as the basic way to do a simple network call. So that's really great. That's really great. I'm really happy to see that because I had found it a bit like underwhelming, I think I could say in the past, that it would go for a completion handler, especially because as an experienced developer, I don't care. I could just like write the header of the function and then it would pick it from there. But as someone more junior, it could put you, drive you towards a direction that is not the best. And now that seems to have been improved. So I'm really happy to see that. And by the way, one thing I always love to see is if it can also create mocks. I mean, we saw that it could do it when it created sums for to implement the API call. But let's see. So static var mocks. So interestingly is that it gives an array. Yes. If I just say mock, it suggests mocks. Okay. And then if I try to say mock, yeah, a random element. To be honest, here a random element makes sense. I would still prefer doing something that is like deterministic than something that will change every time. But yeah, it did quite a nice job. So honestly, I find it a bit sad that I'm more excited by the integration of Copilot into Xcode than I was by the built-in predictive code completion tool of Xcode. But the results are there. This extension of Copilot works much better. Like when I tried predictive code completion, I had the feeling that it would give something correct that I wanted maybe like a third of the time, and it took a lot of time to make the prediction. Here, it's super fast. Prediction seems to be high quality. So honestly, I think they did quite a good job. And I was about to say it's just the first version, but not even. It's still a public beta. So maybe they will add afterwards the fact that you can chat with your code using Copilot. So maybe something like that, right click, and then you could do like services, have some kind of Copilot menu. There is a Copilot menu Here you can't see it because it's outside of what I'm sharing, but basically there is no option to say, hey, Copilot, explain what this part of the code does. But honestly, I think they did quite a good job. I think this is what I wanted to do, so I've checked everything. We tried a bit of Swift UI, we tried some network calls, some tests. To be honest, from there, I think like the next step is going to be, well, give it a try, give it a try, download the extension, give it a try with your code, with your projects. If you're happy with the results, please let me know in the comments. There will be a replay available as always on the same link. So please let me know in the comment if you're happy. If you found some limitations, also let me know. I would love to know which limitation you found. But honestly, my honest feeling after trying this tool, this integration, this extension for the first time, is that they've done quite a good job. I'm really curious to see what will be the next steps of the integration. I'm also curious to see how Swift Assist will compare. I'm not gonna lie, if Swift Assist does less than this, it will be a bit embarrassing for Xcode. But now we have a way to have a great experience at using an AI tool within Xcode. No need to use VS Code, no need to use Cursor or any of these external tools. I'm quite happy about it. I see someone saying that they've missed the live stream again. Don't worry, as always, there is a replay that will be available with the same link as soon as this is over, so you'll be able to check it out just after. No worries. Yeah, I wanted to do something like 1 hour because I don't think there is that much value going after that 1 hour. Honestly, I'm convinced. To be honest, so when I tried Cursor 2 months ago, I haven't used Cursor anymore since then. Remember that Cursor uses Claude under the hood, and I've used Claude a couple times, but it was just for a small time use. So copy and pasting the prompt into the code into the prompt on the website made sense, and going into the dedicated Cursor software felt a bit too heavyweight. But here, the fact that it's embedded into Xcode makes it super easy. And whenever I'm going to use it, for instance, this is I'm using the MacBook Pro that I use to create my videos, to write the code for the videos. I'm gonna be using Copilot now as a default because it's gonna save me a lot of time. And this integration is just great. So once again, well done GitHub, well done Microsoft. The fact that it's a Microsoft, the irony of a Microsoft tool bringing a really great feature to Xcode is not lost on me. So I really hope that when Swift Assist releases later this year, I will be able to do a live stream where I will be like, wow, this is also really great, and we have so many great options these days. But at least my recommendation is honestly disable predictive code completion and use Copilot, because the result is so much better. And unless there is a strong reason like privacy related that makes it that Copilot is a no-no, otherwise just try it. Oh, a good suggestion, trying to do a bug fix. That's a good suggestion. Let's try to introduce a bug. How could we introduce a bug? You know what? I think there is an easy way to introduce a bug. Let's try it quickly. So here we're going to have var addresses. So it's going to be the mocks like that. And then we're going to do a for each. Okay. By the way, look at how fluid this was. There needs to be, oh yes, I need to make it conform to hashable. So let me do that. And it understood that now it needed hashable. Let's see, does it build? I'm gonna try and display it. And basically, I'm gonna, yes, perfect. Let's put a bit of padding. Perfect. And now I'm gonna add a button. So a button is going to be called highlight second address. Okay, so what I will do is it will be like var address, okay, index of address to. It's super verbose. I'm trying to introduce a bug, but I'm lacking like ideas. So here, what this will do now is that it's going to set it to 1. So that's correct. This is perfectly correct. I think I need to do self here. I need to make it at state, even more than doing self. All right, and then to highlight, how can I do it? I think I can, yes. Perfect. This code is disgusting in terms of code quality, but, oh no, it should be nil, not 0 here. Oh, and the button, the button should be after the for each. Perfect. So now it's working correctly. Now I'm going to introduce a bug because it's going to highlight the first address. And now let's say, how can I ask it to fix the bug? I could say like, fix the bug by changing the index to 0. So you can see that it's like narrowing. If I say like there is a bug like that, the button does not highlight the second address. Yes. Fix the bug. Okay, and if I do like, here's how to fix the bug. No, not suggesting anything. No, not change the index to 0. It's rechange the index to 1. So by the way, if you had an idea of how I could ask it to fix the bug, let me know in the chat. So it seems that it's narrowing. I mean, it's narrowing towards this. Also, this is the only thing that does something. So that might also explain. There are not like a lot of targets to narrow down to. What if I write, is there a bug in this code? Let's find out. It's like it's writing a video title for me. Yes. There is a bug in this code. I feel like I'm writing, you know, like some kind of like textual adventure game from the 80s. The bug is that the button is supposed to highlight the second address in the list, but oh, you see, it found a bug. So it's like chatting with your code. It's likely that when you chat with your code using Copilot, it does the same thing under the hood, just packaged into a nicer UI. But we managed to make it spill the beans. Okay. And I see in the chat someone saying, starting to write var body. So if I do something like fix the bug and then var body like that. Okay, so indeed, it did fix the bug like that. So you can see that like the UI isn't great because this works because it's a small file, but in a big file, like imagine if the view is big, then you would need to figure out what is the diff by yourself. But I'm sure that that they can build better features on top of that in order to have like, well, something kind of similar to what we saw when using Cursor, where it was suggesting a diff that you would accept or refuse. But it's nice to see that it was also able to fix the bug. And indeed, now the bug has been fixed. So thank you for the suggestion. And looking at the time, I wanted to do 1 hour. It is 1 hour. We've reached the 1 hour mark. So I think I'm going to stop here. But I'm really happy that I did this this live stream because, to be honest, when I did the live stream about predictive code completion, I was a bit like underwhelmed. And here I'm happy to see that what I care first is, are iOS developers getting the best available tools? And whether that tool is made by Apple or by someone else, I care about that. But like, I would like Apple to give the best tools to iOS developers. But if someone else does it, it's also fine by me. And here we have a really nice tool made by someone else than Apple, but at least it's available. I think if you want to use it, I think there is a pro version of Copilot you need to pay for, but I think it's between like the $10 or $20 per month. I would say it's still well within the realm of something that's reasonable. I'm really glad to see this tool being integrated into Xcode. It's always frustrating that Xcode might not be as powerful as we would like it to be, but I think that with this tool, it's gained like one nice level of power. So I'm really happy to see this being integrated into Xcode. And you say, interesting, level 1 of bug on one file. Next level with it involves many files, absolutely. And this one will be a bit hard for me to create like right now. Not gonna lie, I'm a bit tired also. It's like 9 p.m. in France. But feel free to give it a try. Let me know in the comments if it was able to find a bug. If you have a large project at work, maybe like try to find a place where you fixed a bug recently, go back to the commit before the bug was fixed, and try to see if Copilot is able to find the fix. That would be a really good experience. But on my hand, I'm really happy with what I've seen, and I kind of look forward to just using it when I use Xcode. And if it can help me like just write the code for my videos faster, that will be a huge win for me. So I'm really looking forward to using this tool even more. And I think I just have to say, yeah, that's all for this live stream. Big thank you to the people who watched live and who shared great questions and great remarks in the chat. Always nice to have this level of interactivity. Very different than when I record a video by myself. That's why I like to do live stream. That's why I should be doing more live streams than I have in the past month. But thanks a lot for your level of engagement during this live stream. And well, have a good evening, a good rest of your day, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.